Hello, my gorgeous makeup loving friends. How's it going? I have to say a massive thank you to Makeup on Your Radar. I start off so many videos with that, but this is because it's their new collaboration with Dede Signature. Now, I've never tried Dede Signature before. They're an indie brand that I've always been interested in, but never quite bit the bullet. And the lovely Jamie from Makeup on Your Radar basically said, I want her on the PR for this, which thank you very, very much. As part of this collection, there are 4 palettes. How cute is that? It's so shiny, it's so reflective. So there's extravagance, effervescence, elegance, and eloquence. And I have the 4 palettes here. How adorable. I'm going to start first by showing you the palette Eloquence. So it has this really nice kind of fuchsia in here. Then there's Elegance, which is a fabulous blue-green palette. Then there's Extravaganza, which is, for me, I feel very like Christmassy. Don't know why, but it makes me think of that. And finally, there's Effervescence, which you look at it and be like, Teresa, they're all the same colour. No. You can see here there's like slight shifts here. They're a fabulous sort of like a topper palette. So today's video is essentially me trying this out for the first time. I don't want to call it a review because one try isn't enough to do a decent review, but it is essentially a tutorial and giving you my overall first impressions of this. Believe it or not, I did use all 4 of these palettes to make this look. So if you are interested in seeing how I did this particular look, then do please keep on watching. Have you ever felt like you might have bitten off slightly more than you can chew? I think I might have. I decided I would try and use all 4 of the palettes because I'm like, hey, why not? Let's set a ridiculous, arbitrary challenge. So there you go. At least I didn't use all 20 shades because, I mean, there's weirdness and then there's just impossibility. So obviously trying to use all 4 of the palettes to get a sort of a flavour as to what the formula is like led to something like this. But I want to start off first by using the Eloquence palette. So this looks like this. Now, I really wanted to see what the story was with the mattes because I've never tried Dede Signature before. And for me, what I can really tell about a palette or a brand in general is how they formulate their mattes. Like, do I get on well with them? So I'm just starting off very, very easily with a My Kit Co brush. It's the My Blending Shadow Mini. And I love this so much. I mean, look at the shape of that. Perfection. And I'm just going into this shade here. It's not named. I actually think that Jamie did this because she has to move around an awful lot because of life, etc. And I think she's specifically made these sort of like little travel palettes so that you can do that. Now, what I will say is very, very pigmented. Now I'm starting off first with the darkest colours and blending out into the light because this is the sort of formula that is very much catered towards that. This is a very, very high pigment formula, so keep that in mind. What you're going to want to do is tap off your excess. So literally just starting by popping it in to the inner corner. Make sure that you have your hand down at the base of the brush. She said as though she knew what she was talking about. We all know I don't. Now, I tapped off quite a bit, but do you see how I'm still getting like a crazy amount of colour here? Okay? You're better off tapping off excess rather than smashing it all onto your eyelid because trust me, this is very, very pigmented. Despite that, blends really nicely. So just do your little swirly motions. It's all good. Blending it in, bring it into the lid to some degree because I really wanted to see how the mattes perform. Obviously, I use some of the shimmers as well, but for me, as to whether or not I'm going to get on with a brand, it's all about the mattes, right? At the end of the day, you need a good matte to build a look from. And look at these. I've never tried Dede Signature before. They've always been on like a list, which sounds really like weird, but like I've always had them in the back of my mind of like, I'm intrigued by them. I wish to try them, but because they're in the States, they're a little bit trickier for me to get here in Ireland. So I was very, very fortunate that Jamie ever so kindly popped me onto the PR list. So thank you so much. In case you're wondering, Jamie is the ever so fabulous Makeup on Your Radar too. I know, because the poor thing, she works so hard on her Instagram and yet every so often somebody just decides to arbitrarily report her. So she's gone through very, very many iterations. There was Makeup Release Radar, then Makeup on Your Radar. I mean, she's gone through so many. And I just love that she just keeps with it. She's fantastic and just such a lovely human being. I'm very fond of Jamie. So I do want you to keep that in mind. That's why this isn't like a review, because I think I would struggle to really disentangle my feelings towards Jamie and how lovely she is from the makeup itself. But what I'm going to do is obviously just try and not edit this so you can see how things are actually performing in real time. I'm taking a small little blending brush. This is the Cosmic Brushes CB4, and I'm going into this very, very nice lilac-y shade. Again, with this one, make sure that you're tapping off the excess. Now, what I will say with this is kind of like tap it in and you can buff it out then. I like to tap it in along the edge of where the previous colour kind of ended, so that there's a little bit more of a blend. Again, make sure you have your brush at the very base. These are all tricks that I've learned from my lovely friend Daniela. She has imparted a lot of wisdom to me, and I like to impart some wisdom onto you. But the academic in me is always like, sort where you got your information from, say where you got it from, don't be claiming that this is your idea. No, I have no ideas. I just have anxiety because it's currently 1:30 in the morning. Yeah, at night time. So I'm a bit all over the place, but that's okay. I mean, for anyone who's watched me for a while, you're like, Teresa, of course you're all over the place. It's a day ending in a Y. You're always all over the place. It's so hard to know where you are at any given moment, which fair, honestly. But look at the level of pigment that I'm getting there. Now, I will say again, I do have like a white base on, which is obviously going to impact things. And I am, of course, the colour of a ghost. But, I mean, you're still getting a good amount of shades here and a really good level of pigmentation. So personally, I'm quite impressed with this to start off with. And I did say that I was going to be very annoyed with Jamie if I ended up liking this, because it then means that I'm going to want to end up buying this brand. I think that might be where I'm going. I'm going back in with that my Kit Coat brush and back into that original kind of raspberry shade, just to kind of seamlessly blend ever so slightly more, because I just don't have as much here as I would like. Are the eyes going to match each other? Probably not. Are they going to look like they're related? Yes. I at least have the talent to do that. I know, try not to be too intimidated by me. I did also have the very bright idea to try and like freestyle a star, and then I'm like, oh, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Oh, I have some weird ideas at this time of the morning, it seems. So I just want to stamp a little bit more colour. I will say what I appreciate about this is, yes, you do get a lot of pigment, but I can blend it out, which I appreciate. So it's like, it's quite a nice sort of a pigment. Usually with pigments like this, you'll struggle to blend. You just get like your colour and it's just wha-bam. So again, I'm going back in with that lilac colour just on top. I've tapped off my excess. Oh, there we go. Do these eyes match? No, I've gone way too much out here, but do you know what? Whatever. It's not the worst things that's happened to me this week, month, or even this year. It's not a big deal. Now, the next palette that I'm looking at is Elegance, and I gotta say, of all of the palettes, this was the one that really, really got me. I love blue and green as a colour story. It's just my jam. I'm now taking this, my Kit Coat brush. It's my On Point Blender Small. It's really quite nice, and I'm going into this quite dark blue shade here. And I am just going to stamp it on the centre of the eye. I'm going to pack it on way beyond where I put the raspberry shade, because, you know, why not? Why not, lads? And for those of you who know me, you know I have very hooded eyelids. I have been doing stuff actually around that and making them a little bit less hooded. So I'm having quite a bit of success with that. But I still have to bear in mind what is actually possible for my aging eyelids. So I am just packing that on. I know I should use different brushes to do that, but I'll be honest with you, lads. The idea of using a million different brushes just makes me kind of go, oh God. Mostly because then it's like, oh no, I've made more cleaning for myself. you know, which also will tell you a lot about how I am as a cook. I'm like, if I can put everything into one saucepan, oh, oh mama, that's for me. I think that's why I love the Ninja so much, because I'm like, oh, let's just smash everything into that. So you can see you get a good bit of colour here. It does kind of take a little bit to blend it, but that's kind of the nature of these pigments. This is not like a wham bam, thank you ma'am, gonna be done in a couple of minutes type of a look, but that's okay. I mean, I'm hoping that nobody looked at this and went, ah yes, this will be achieved in 3 minutes. I'm sorry, there is a bit of blending. Now I will say putting the sparkles over does kind of hide any issues with the blending, but you know, let's just call it out for what it is. I think one of the things I particularly enjoy about my aging eyelids is all of the random creases. Like, look at that there, like where the shadow has skipped. I'm like, why are you skipping there? And it's like, ah yes, excess skin. Thanks. Didn't know that that was something that I could get self-conscious about. But there you go. That's the whole thing of aging, is just realizing that there's new things that you're now self-conscious about that you weren't self-conscious about before. So, I mean, I guess that's what happens if you live long enough. Oh, I don't know, lads. I don't know. But yeah, I'm having a little bit of an issue there with it skipping. That's mostly, I think, just the way that I built it up. That's a certain amount of like this being on me. But it does blend. I just have to be patient, which is not my strong suit. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is bring in the Extravagance palette. And you're going to think this is a little bit weird because I'm taking this little blending brush. It's from Cash Beauty. And I want to go in to this shade. Now, part of why you're going to think that's strange is it almost looks like that shade is similar to the deep blue shade in this palette. But let me show you just through a quick swatch that they are quite different. They're like similar in the sense of like same level of depth, but one is clearly a much kind of like blacker blue and one is a little bit lighter. So I'm just taking that Cash Beauty brush and I'm going into that slightly lighter blue and always tapping off the excess. Did I manage to blend out that skip? Not really. But you know what? Life is short and so am I. And sometimes you just don't have to worry about such things. You know? See, even just there, that's filled that in perfectly. Ha 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 ha. I feel validated for being lazy. That's all I really wanted. But do you see there how you can almost see once you add in that shade, it does help to lighten it out ever so slightly. So they are like distinct shades. So she has made them obviously so that you can use all of these together, but you can use them singularly or individually if that's what you might like. I'm just greedy and ridiculous and I'm like, oh well, I'll obviously use all of them in one go. Spot the overachiever right here. I mean, yes, I know it's a ridiculous thing to do, but there you go. I never said that I did like normal things. Look at how nicely that's blended though. And yes, I do realise I'm just reinforcing myself, kind of going, didn't you do great, Teresa? Well, you know what, I'll do it. And now I'm taking this little blending brush, I believe it's a BH Cosmetics, and I'm going back into the Elegance palette. Can I also just say I love that everything is an E name, eloquence, extravagance. It's very pleasing to me, and also it's like that whole peacock vibe, very nice. So I'm going into this lighter shade here. Now I want to give a little word of warning with this one because this one can build up, so you do want to be very, very light with it. Like it's kind of harder to disperse that. Like once you've added in that color, it's hard to make it lighter. So you really do want to be quite gentle with this and not go ham, even though the temptation is to go a bit ham. So I'm probably not going to add any more of that shade onto this simply because I want to be able to lighten it up so that it's a much more gentle blend and it's not like a big streak of colour. Not that there's anything wrong with a streak of colour, Lord knows. But just for this, I feel like it might look a little bit weird, you know? But I mean, when have I cared about whether or not something is weird? Rarely, my friends, Very, very rarely. I'm now going back into the Extravagance palette again, and I'm using this Zoeva brush. I can't remember which one it is. It's the 225. I love that for blending out blacks. And what I'm doing is obviously taking this dark green shade and I'll want to put it on the outer corner of the eye. So I'm literally just popping that here. Now you're not going to want to really double dip in with this one, because particularly if you are as pale as me, because look at the level of pigment that you're getting on with that. And I will also say this is a tricky color to get to merge with the blue. Like, it will merge, but if you're like me and you're like, I don't have time, I'm tired, don't worry. There's a little trick for that. I wish there was an app for that. There probably is. I mean, you could face tune yourself, but like, who has time and the energy? I just don't. And plus, you know, you can't face tune yourself in reality. But I'm going to show you now what to do. Again, this is a little trick that my friend Daniela taught me, because you can get these two to blend. It's no issue. But if you're lazy, like me, no shame in it. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm going to show you what to do now. So I'm just taking this blank canvas E10, and what I'm doing is I'm taking that dark blue shade and I'm just tapping it onto the brush. Taking a flat surface, I just use this resin sort of pad. You can use anything you want, really. I mean, maybe not like a cat or something, because, you know. And then a little bit more of that green. And then tap that off. And then you're going to mix it. Literally, that's all this suggestion is. So by doing that, you've kind of just blended the two shades together so that I can pop it in here, in the center, between those two shades, and have it just merge in that way. So you've blended it on the little resin palette to make your life a little bit easier. Isn't that a nice trick? Again, not mine. My friend Daniela had it. She told me how to do it, and I have shamelessly taken it for myself. I'm now taking another Cosmic Brushes brush, and it's a nice little blendy one, and I'm going into this shade here. It's in the Elegance palette. It's hard to keep a track of these, but I'm hoping that you might have noticed that we have in fact used 3 out of the 4 so far, and that one obviously blends really, really nicely with the dark green. It's a little bit trickier to get it to blend with the blue, so obviously you can do the same thing again by taking that shade and mixing it with that lighter blue. Do I have these two eyes matching each other? I've been wanting to film with this for ages, but I have a load of stuff going on in my own life. I'm not even going to say what it is, because I just feel like, nah, there's certain things that I can keep to myself, and that's fine. We don't have to overshare. I've made the terrible habit of like oversharing in the past, and it's like, don't do that, Teresa. People don't need to know everything. You can be a demure lady and keep some things to yourself. So just for a quick piece of information, I've taken a little blending brush and I have taken the green shade from the Elegance palette here and the blue shade from the Extravagance palette here, and I've just patted off or tapped off some excess here and mixed it so that I can mix the two shades together. Again, lazy blending, but we're kind of here for it, and just popping that there where the two shades would naturally tend to merge. So it does just make it a little bit easier for us. And I personally like that. Just as an FYI, I added a little bit more of that blue there because it was looking like a little bit like it was missing there. Just for full transparency, because, you know, why not? And then I am taking this, my Kitco brush. Again, it's the My Blending Shadow Mini. I love these ones. And I'm going into this beautiful green shade. I think this might be my favourite shade of all time. Look at this. I love this shade. It's like really like radioactive, like it's so pretty. And I'm not afraid to put on too much of it. You'll notice I'm not tapping off excess because there's no such thing as excess with this particular shade. It's beautiful. It is perfection. Look at how easily it's blending with everything. Like, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. It's so nice. Now you're going to think this is a little bit weird, but just to try and mesh things, I'm just going to take this brush here. It is a Lois Cosmetics one. I miss Lois Cosmetics. And all I'm going to do, there's no product on it, just lightly dust along here, just to have the mesh and merge a little bit more so that there's more of a gentle transition. Okay, now a lot of this will get covered up, or it won't be as obvious once there's some sparkles on it, but obviously you could just leave it at this if you wanted. Absolutely no shame in that. However, we do like sparkles, or at least, you know, I do. And this is the Effervescence, right? And each of these are kind of like toppery shades. I assume you could also use them as like a highlighter. So this one here is more purpley pinky based. So I'm literally just going to take that on the finger like a gross little gremlin. And all I'm doing is just tapping it there. That's it. Like, that's as simple as you can make it, really. And then I also want to take some of this shade here, which is a little bit more pinky, because that one's more of like a purpley blue. And I want to tap that on there as well, so that we have that nice mixture of pinks and purples, so that they're kind of smashing into each other in a not violent way. Yes. And now I'm taking this shade again. It's from the Effervescence palette. And I'm just going to pop it where all of the blue is. So as you can see, it is a very toppery shade. You could probably build it up a little bit, but this was just the way that I wanted it. And I popped it all the way up to the brow bone. So you can see, like, we can get away with the fact that I didn't do like the best job blending. Because as I said, it's early in the morning here. Yes, I did do this to myself, but let us not discuss that. Then I am going to take this shade here. It's a pity that they're not named, but I mean, who needs names when I can just point with my disgusting fingers? And I'm just going to tap that here. See how we're getting somewhere with this? And then very last shade that I want to tap into is this one. There's more of like a yellowy sort of a reflect on this. I will say this, she's blinding. Why do we always call them she? They are blinding. And you're going to want to tap it out, and you're going to want to kind of disperse it, because otherwise it starts to look a little bit streaky. So what I'm doing now is just take another brush to kind of swirl it around. And this time I have this Melt Cosmetics brush. I've kind of gone through a color switch with it, and I'm just going to mesh them together like this, so that I'm getting a slightly more kind of subtle blend. And it's okay that some of the shimmers are mixing. Like, that's not a big issue. Let us enjoy our lives and have the colours a mix. And that's it. So what I'm going to do now is obviously draw on the star, pray for, I don't know, salvation, whatever it is. And I will come back, show you the final look, and tell you what my first impression of these palettes actually are. Did I put on a high neck top in an attempt to cover up the fact that my foundation is too dark for me right now? Maybe. You'd think that in summer I could have my summer shade, but apparently not. Let's be real, everything has all come together, I think, rather okay. Do I need to wash my fringe? Yes. But we're not going to discuss that. I'm going to zoom you in now so you can see the eyes. And yes, I did indeed decide to add some gems. And just as an FYI, the kind of colours underneath the eye are from some Melt Cosmetics gel liners. We never talk about the indentations from the glasses, because frankly, it's rude and I don't want to talk about it. Now, of course, I have a lot of lights on here right now. There's a ring light, there's two box lights, there's a main light on, and that's going to wash out a lot of the sparkles. So I'm going to show you what it looks like with just one source of light on now. So at the moment, I just have one ring light on, nothing else is on, and I'm hoping this will help you pick up the sparkles a little bit better. I'm going to zoom in uncomfortably close now so that you can see these a bit better. I told you it was going to be uncomfortable. You can kind of see the sparkles there. Now I will say, did I go ham on them? No, I kind of wanted the mattes to speak for themselves. And all in all, I know I did use a lot of shadows, but it is quite a simple look. Like, it's not like, oh my god, you need any sort of like major skill in makeup artistry to make this happen. It's just chunk the colours together and hope for the best. But I think it looks nice. I mean, there's nothing about of a lash and graphic liner can't help make it a little bit more interesting. And if you're too frightened of graphic liner, just put dots onto your eyeballs. People love that sort of thing. So obviously I can't kind of put this forward as being a review because in my mind, I'd need to play with it an awful lot more. However, I do like the formula so far. I used pretty much all of the mattes. I have yet to try the more metallic formulas that are in these sort of palettes. So, you know, kind of have to wait a little bit on that. I feel like the palette Effervescence is really interesting and is going to be the one that gets quite a few people. If I'm 100% honest, Elegance is my one. I swear to God, just this shade of green, it is amazing. Really, really beautiful. I do feel just from trying these that it has now slightly broken me in that, like, it's like breaking through a dam, because now I feel that I'm probably going to end up getting more Dede signature stuff because I do like this formula. I think it's really, really nice, really high level of pigmentation. Do I think this is necessarily like super user friendly for somebody who's very, very new to colour? Not really, but I think if you give yourself enough time and enough grace, you can play with it. But I think, to be fair, most people who are getting colour stories like this, they're not necessarily new to colour. They're like, meh, I'll do what I want. I love that this is very, very true to Jamie. She has done so well. How cute. I love that there's 4 palettes rather than having one big 20-pan palette. It kind of speaks to her, because I know that with her kind of moving around, she has a tendency to do her declutters, and kind of smaller palettes like this tend to make the cut. So I'm like, I see what you did there. You sly little minx, you. I think they're done really, really well. It's such a fun, interesting colour story. Do I think that necessarily you can make a whole look from these palettes? Yeah, you can, clearly. But I also think you can mix and match these with other palettes as well. I just love that she went for full colourful, because I've seen so many neutral palettes recently and I've been enjoying those. But at the end of the day, I will always kind of veer more towards colour. And I mean, look at that. It's not taking up much room at all. Like, look at that. It's so small. You wouldn't even notice it in your makeup collection. It's so teeny tiny. So she's done really, really well. But yeah, as I said, it's not a review per se. If you guys got this collection, will you let me know? Have you enjoyed it so far? Drop those comments down below. I am nosy as always. But my gorgeous friends, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Do please like, comment and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell, and do please share, because sharing is caring, except of course for STDs, in which case just wrap it up. Don't be gross. But that's it. That's the end of the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.